So, welcome to the For Your Thoughts podcast, where psychology, pop culture, and self meets. I'm here with my friend Q. Hey, girl, my friend, my sis, actually.
Yeah. My
Yes,
Virgo sis,
yes.
Pennie.
Oh my God, he loves Virgos, which is rare. People normally are like, Virgos.
No,
But
I mean, you guys are psychopaths, but I'm into it.
wait, what's your sign again? Wait, are you
I'm I'm a Libra.
a Libra? That's what it was. Okay, a Libra. Yeah,
Yes,
and y'all
yes,
kind of get along with everybody,
yes,
right?
yes. I mean, we're
Yeah.
psychopaths too, so
Yeah, so
it works. It works.
it makes sense. Okay, so of course, like I always say, I always know who I want to have on the pod, but it's always about like the right moment or whatever. So I'm gonna have you tell them about who you are, what you do, and stuff like that. But for me, I really adore like creatives in the industry and just women in the industry who literally are real and and they actually care about other women.
Yeah.
And when I first started to get in here, I'm not even sure how we actually met. I have no idea.
Probably like one of the parties that I threw or something.
Right. They just came to, I think we
Yeah.
were following each other and I like was like, oh my God, I gotta go to this party. But
Hmm.
I remember I was interviewing for Cinematic for an internship there and I hit you up.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's when
Yes.
we like really like met and talked like that. And you were just
Mhm.
like so cool, so sweet. Like most people just aren't that what's the word? Just like helpful and
Yeah. Yeah.
and transparent, you know?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
wasn't used to that at all. I, of course, come from Houston, from Texas, and I was kind of new here. And I was like, damn, like this is an actual, like, genuine soul.
Yeah.
So it's just like a breath of fresh air always, like, for sure.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
tell the people, like, who you are, like, where you came. I always say, like, who you were, who you are, and then who you are going to be, or who you plan to be, or who you will be, shit.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
you know? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my name is Q, pronounced Q-U-E, excuse me, spelled Q-U-E.
Mm-hmm.
Many people know me as a businesswoman in the music industry. I host events, I do all types of productions in all lanes of music, but this specifically is because I am releasing a song tomorrow, actually 11/11.
Yes.
So this is Q the singer. So we're gonna talk about who I am and who I will be. This is Q the singer songwriter. And I am originally from New York, but I grew up in Atlanta. So to speak to why it was so warm is because of that Southern hospitality.
Right.
I know all about it. And then just also just being a Black and brown woman in the music industry, I know how important it is to really like help each other along the way. So yes, I'm currently based out of Jersey City, New York. Whenever you say like, you ever see somebody put like in their bio, it says like NJ/New York, and people talk,
Yeah.
they're just like, that's how you know they live in Jersey.
Right.
But
Then
it's
he lives
all
in
the same.
Jersey.
It's right here. You know,
No,
my rent
it's so
is
close.
here. Yeah, it's so
And
close.
it's so cute and peaceful. I went to visit, like, to come, like, link with you. And I'm like, okay, this is nice. And it's not that far. Like, people be OD saying that Jersey's that far.
They're doing the most.
They're doing the
And
literal
look,
most.
it's cheap. I believe it's either on like Sundays or Mondays. We don't have retail tax. I don't know if anybody knows that, but come
Wait,
shop in
are you,
Jersey.
so
Yes.
it's taxis. What was it called? Taxi. I remember, like, in Texas, like right before school started, it'd be like one weekend where everything
Yep.
was.
Yep.
So
It's like
every,
that, but like every week. Like I don't know. I don't know if it's Sunday or Monday, but like that's a thing in New Jersey. Yeah.
I didn't know that, so I
Yes.
got to go
Yes.
shopping there. That's crazy. That's
Yes.
crazy. Okay, so before we get into like more of your story and stuff like that, I want to definitely address what happened this past weekend
Mhm.
in Houston at ASTROWORLD Fest.
Mhm.
Definitely prayers to all the families, to
Yes.
Travis, to
Yes.
Scoremore, to
Yes.
Live Nation, to
Yes.
everybody that was involved. All of my friends who were involved. I have some friends who witnessed some like really traumatic things.
Oh, they actually went.
Oh yeah, they actually went
Okay.
and like they saw some they saw like crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your perspective was literally gold. I was like, oh my God, yes, like this is something that I personally didn't even think
Go
about.
get me a travel
No,
penny.
you don't have to get into it, like get into it
Okay.
as much as you want to, but
Okay.
I really just like appreciate it because it just made everything honestly make more sense for me too, as someone
Yeah.
who's not, in rage culture or like
Yeah.
never been in a mosh pit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you can just share to the extent that you want, and then of course we'll
Okay.
cut out whatever we think is like, yeah,
Okay. Cool. So
right.
I want to preface with I am a person who is all about accountability. How could have I been more aware in a situation where I cannot put the blame on someone else? So to kind of start it with there, I think that it's more of a it's more of a situation where we need to be a little bit more cognizant about the generation that's coming up, just to kind of speak to the whole mosh pit culture, like what happened in terms of people trampling all over each other to kind of rush the stage. That is not a mosh pit, you know what I'm saying? Like exactly what happened, the rushing of the stage was not a pit formed of spiritual expression. So I will start with saying that I hope that, you know, the generation and the parents of this generation kind of learn from that and kind of ask their kids a little bit more questions about where they're going and what they're really into to kind of get a grasp on what they're engaging in. And then obviously, yes, it's a thing of, you know, production. It's a thing of, you know, maybe Travis could have done a little bit more in terms of really just stopping the show and saying, yo, I'm not going to fucking continue until you guys get your shit together. But I do truly think that we need to assess the generation under us. What is that? Generation X?
Gen X. Yeah,
X, yes. Gen X, they are, they're like a hybrid of us where we're kind of like, you know, fuck the system. But I think that, you know, our generation, because we come from, you know, our parents, you know, actually being a part of cultures, creating like hip hop and all of these actual movements, we have a little bit more direction.
And we have a little more foundation too. Like we just like, and our plans just, they didn't play that.
Right, exactly. We was getting ass whoopings. Like we was, where you at? I don't know whose house you're at. Oh, you want punishment. You know what I'm saying? And I think that this generation with the parents just, you know,
and the access that they have too.
Exactly. And then the parents just being younger and, you know, wanting to be a bit more free spirited, which is completely fine. Like, I don't want to make it a thing where we're getting down on the parents and shit. But I do think that, you know, moving forward, everyone does need to be a little bit more into what Gen Z is into and kind of teaching them to protect their spirits and protect their souls. Because, you know, if they have been armed with those tools to, you know, truly protect their souls, I personally don't think that they would have been ejected, you know, like that.
Right.
But,
and if you can, because people aren't going to understand what you mean in a sense to, well, some people might, but like the spiritual part about that culture, since you like you definitely moshed before, you're definitely a spiritual person.
Oh yeah.
That'd be a great segue into everything else we're going to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, like me and my boyfriend, we've been to Travis shows, multiple shows. We get in the pit. I've definitely busted a knee or two. But when you go, you are going to let your spirit kind of live between these two spaces. So when you go, you know, and I can only speak for myself and, you know, my friends who I know, you know, who are in the culture, but when you go, you know, you have to prepare for that. You know what I'm saying? You have to prepare from every way, from, you know, making sure you're drinking enough water, understanding that you probably shouldn't be drinking alcohol, you know, smoke your weed or do whatever to kind of enhance that experience for you. But alcohol dehydrates you. So, you know, just little stuff like that. And then just actually preparing your spirit to be safe while it's kind of in this, you know, space where it's kind of hanging out with everybody else's spirit. You would have needed to prepare your spirit to be doing that. So based on everybody's, you know, personal spiritualities, those practices can be different. But I truly think that that's what mosh pit culture is about. You know, you're agreeing to being in that space where, you know, your spirit may be out of your body for a second, because that's also music. Music is a spiritual.
And like you were saying, you're like, of course we are not, everyone should be accountable, but we're also not blaming Trav. I'm not blaming, everyone just needs to be accountable for their own.
Blaming anyone. We're not blaming anyone.
And Travis was in a trance. Like when you perform, like you are in a whole trance. Even when I am on stage, like doing interviews, like you're in a whole different like wavelength, and it is a spiritual thing. So it's like, I'm not sure people like, you know, took that into account. And then also people don't know anything about mosh culture, and they just are like, they don't even know that that's happening. Like there's like a bunch of kids trying to hit each other in the fucking face and all this type of stuff.
Exactly.
It's like,
especially for us, like if you didn't grow up in the South where like Waka Flocka was a thing when we was growing up, that was kind of like our introduction to mosh for our culture. And even though it's not a new thing for us, it was like, oh, Waka, and then just how it moved your body. You're like,
felt like,
exactly.
Yes. Okay. That's a perfect segue into, okay, your song is coming out. It's called Cry. It comes out what, tomorrow? Well, today. This is gonna be today.
At midnight. Yes.
Midnight. Okay. So how do you feel?
I feel great. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I literally, like, not even exaggerating, have not been sleeping. Like, I'm just up.
From
Um,
nerves or from work?
I don't know. I don't even know if I want to say it's nerves, right? Because like nerves is attached to like negative anxiety. I think I'm just excited.
Right. No,
I'm
that's
really
so
excited,
exciting.
right? Like I'm finally in this position, like because I used to sing like when I was in high school, like I was known as the singer. Like my
Mm-hmm.
superlative was most likely to be famous, and I would perform at certain little, talent shows and things like that. So like for me, it's kind of just, I'm really excited to just kind of check in with like my child self and say, hey, like, I know we kind of left this off that note that we did wherever my mind was at when I said I didn't want to do
Right.
it anymore, but to kind of be able to loop back in and be like, hey girl, we're back and we're dropping
Mm-hmm.
a song. So I
Right.
feel really fucking great. I think that the song itself is such a beautiful record. Like the messaging, like when myself and my bestie, my good sis Michaela,
Yes, love her.
when we were sitting and we were writing, it was definitely emotional for like everybody in the room. So we just knew what it was for us, and hopefully what it'll do for other people. But I think it's a beautiful song, mostly because it has a bop. You could get your little groove on, smoke your tree, do whatever, but like the messaging is so on point. And to speak back to what happened at Astroworld, something like this song and the messaging of that, I think will help people carry through that situation, and then just kind of just continue to move through, because we're coming off of the age of the Aquarius. You know what I mean? Like we're in a space where our talents are supposed to be for each other and supposed to be for the next generation. So I take that very seriously. And so with this song and with the rest of my music, like we're talking about stuff. We're gonna dance, and we're gonna get our shit off a little bit, because mosh pit culture. I'm gonna give you
Right.
the
I
record.
must be in that whole like.
I'm give you the record.
So okay, let's go back then, so people can a better perspective, because I love stories like this. I love when like all like you go through life or whatever, but like you never know like what you're gonna use, what's gonna come back around. But literally, like God's spirit is always like working in your favor with every experience, and then it all just comes into this full circle if you are making sure you're walking in the right, or in whatever direction or whatever. I don't say right or wrong, but so for you said that when you were younger, you were definitely more so like in the forefront, an artist, a singer. We're actually doing that, and then one day you were just like, okay, I'm not feeling this, because it's like it just didn't feel like, was it authentic? Like, how would you describe it? It just didn't feel right, because you were so young. Like, how'd you know?
Yeah, I was so young, but like this person that I am today, in terms of like being so in tune with my spirituality, I've always been that person.
Yeah.
So like even like when I was younger and I was like super young, like being a kid and just being like, I don't like the energy in this room.
That's
And
how
then
I was
everybody,
too. Oh my
yeah. And
God.
then, the adults kind of perceiving that as you being like rude or disrespectful. And it's like, nah, I'm actually just in tune.
Right.
So with that being said, I just kind of felt like, I remember the moment too. I used to perform at this spot called Club Endenu. It was
In
downtown
Atlanta.
Atlanta. It was downtown Atlanta, and like I did a couple sets there. Like they really fucked with me and supported me. And I was on stage, and I just kind of looked out, and I mean, I was a kid. Like there were adults in the crowd, so they weren't like being like mean or anything. But I just kind of looked out, and I had this perspective change of, there are people here, judging me. They don't know where I come from, what exactly I'm trying to do, but like they have the power to judge me off of this one performance or this one interaction. And I literally got off stage, and I was just like, I think that I need to kind of give them something like a little bit, not more true, but just more purposeful to judge.
Something that they could really like feel, like not
Yeah,
just,
like if you're gonna judge something, I don't wanna, and it's like, I'm a kid, so I'm not like mad at myself for my influences, but like at that time, like I wanted to be the next fucking Sierra, which is great because Sierra,
like, yeah,
we love Cece,
right.
we love her, but I think for me, it just didn't make sense. Like I was like, I need to experience life. I need to really like come into myself. Even now, like I'm coming more into my Native American culture and really doing that purpose. And if I had become a singer then, it would have been either A, harder to transition into, you know, who I am today, or B, it might not have ever happened.
Right.
And I was just so in tune with the fact that like, this isn't it. I don't know what is, but I know I'll always, music is literally my first love. Like you know, when you're younger, obviously the only people that you know are like your family members.
Mm-hmm.
The only other person that I knew was Michael Jackson, which I'm sure is the same for a lot of us, right?
Right.
But I took that super seriously. I was just like, no, the music, the everything, like the short film, what's it? The one with Annie, Are You Okay in it? But it was like a short film on like VHS tape.
Right. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name, yeah.
But I watched that shit every day. Like I was super like with the fucking remote in my hand, like this shit is awesome. I don't know what the fuck, but
I'm in it. Like this is
right. So I just took every thought and every feeling of intuition that kind of came to me about anything that surrounded music. I just took it really seriously, and I told my mom I don't want to do this anymore. And then I went to college, and then here we are today.
Right. And then you went on and you still worked in music and you still worked with artists. So like talk about that journey as well, because that is like all of that leads you to full circle to where you are now.
Exactly. So I went to school. I started out at Clayton State University, which is in Clayco, Atlanta, Georgia. So I did that for 2 years. And then I was like, I need that big school experience, like literally coming from watching How High, because representation matters.
Right.
I was like, I want that.
Right. You're like, I'm trying to do that. Oh my God.
So I was like, all right, so now I'm gonna
people normally say like a different world or something like that. You talking about How High. That is so funny. Like
look, my parents are hip hop heads, bro. Yeah. Like everything was Wu-Tang, Tribe Called Quest. So it was like How High.
I love it.
So then I go to the University of Alabama, which was the best 2 years, hands down, of my entire life. It really, really shaped me seriously. You know, being in the heart of a transcending racist place, it really just changes you like completely. But I love that experience. Then I, was given the opportunity, well, not the opportunity, but I was given the option of you either sit down on academic probation or you just figure it out. And I was like, you know what? This isn't working for me anymore. And I went back to Atlanta, started hanging out with like all the art kids in Atlanta. I don't know if, everybody's familiar with New Atlanta 29 and my homie Steve-O. He really just like ushered me into like that whole space. And I was like, all right, word. Like I'm back in it. It's in a different way, but I'm back in it. Kind of just moved around in that for a bit, curated some events. Shout out to Paula, my good sis Paula. She helped me curate my first ever event with Saint Beauty. I don't know if you know the band Saint Beauty.
I don't, but
check them out.
I will,
But after that, I was working at Victoria's Secret, and then I quit, and I was just like, girl, what are you doing? And one of my friends at the time, he knew Q-Tip's manager, and he put me on, and I literally handed in my resume maybe like 3 months before Tip even called me. So I thought I didn't get it.
Right.
And Tip just like texts me and was like, hey, this is Q-Tip, just randomly one day. Hey,
that's so crazy to get a message, be like, hey, this is Q-Tip.
And I'm like fucking fake. Like, are you kidding me?
Like, this can't be real.
Right. So I'm like, yeah, we could hop on the phone. And he's like, yo, I want to interview you. And I'm like, I'm on the first China bus to New York. Like, I think it was like a Tuesday and I left on like a Friday. And
you were moving back?
Well, I mean, at that time I wasn't doing anything. And my mom was kind of like, well, just come home. Cause she lived, back in New York at that time. She was like, just come home, just sit down for a second. You have somewhere to stay. Just, get your mind right. And right when I spoke to her and figure that out, that next day is when I got that
crazy
tip. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Like, this is it.
Yeah,
this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
So I hop on a China bus to New York. My mom picks me up. I literally changed clothes in the car that she picks me up in. We drive over to where Tip is. I interview with him. And I just remember like the biggest thing that I said to him, he was like, you know, well, I'm interviewing other people. And I was like, that's great. So they can either work with me or I don't really care what they're doing, but this is my job. And he really got a kick out of that. And he fucked with me. I was with him for 2 years. I did everything from, I started out as his personal assistant, and I worked into, like I did some set assistant work for like the last Tribe music video. And then when I left and moved on to cinematic, I realized that he had given me a Tribe Called Quest management credits at the end of the video, which he didn't even tell me. I literally was just watching the video,
and I
just sat there fucking crying 3 months later.
That is so dope.
Yeah, so Tip really
That's
like
crazy.
ushered me in. Like he's my big brother. He's my mentor. Q-Tip is everything. Q-Tip
What
is
would you say is like the biggest lesson that you've learned, like not even career wise? I'm talking like spiritual, mental, life wise. Like what's something that either learned by just watching him or that he's actually like said?
So I guess we can get personal. This is a part of my story. So I spent a few weeks sleeping in my car. My family lived in upstate New York, which was about an hour drive away from Tip's house. And I was doing it every day. It was fine. But then my car started to break down. So I was just like, I can risk going home and then my car not starting and then not being able to get to work. And so I made the executive decision to sleep in my car. And Q-Tip caught on to it and he was fucking furious. He was like, how dare you be in a system of literal tribal unity and not let your tribe know that you need help. Wow. So I think that was my biggest thing, was just when you have your tribe and that's your fucking tribe, you take care of your tribe. And you know, shit worked out. Like it was such a very small time that I did it, and I was transitioning into getting my apartment. But like Q-Tip, he definitely looked out, and we made it work. And so that's the biggest thing is like, yo, when you find your tribe, everybody's not your tribe. Sometimes you just work with people. You know what I'm saying? But when you find your tribe, you make sure you fucking look out for them.
Right. And make sure that you ask for help. I think that's another like really good lesson is like also like people don't know these stories. Like I have stories just like that, like maybe not sleeping, you know, but it's people have no idea like what we've gone through to get to where we are. All they see is like the finished pretty, you know, product of it all or whatever. So asking for help is one thing I really sucked at and still suck at, unless it's like my mama, like I really suck.
Right.
And so that asking for help and then also community and knowing who that community is because everyone is not yours.
And it's hard, right? Because it's like you don't want to ask for help. Excuse me, already being a Black woman, right? We're already prideful and we don't want handouts and we want people to know that we worked for what we have so that we can stand on our throne and say, I fucking worked for this shit. So to kind of, you know, find that balance of asking and then like you said is like, you know, finding the tribe and trusting the tribe, like all of that shit is trial and error. But you know, if you're attached to spirit, you know, you know,
like you feel it, you feel it. It's another thing that like you said this time and also during dinner, and it's it was like great advice that I wish I would have heard, and it's kind of like about owning it and like your confidence and like being someone that people want to actually work with, and kind of just like it's not really playing the game, but it's just like being you, like don't be like a stiff ass board, you know, or whatever the case may be. So kind of speak more to that because I know you've had interns, you've worked with different people, and what I've noticed, like you can be, of course, be talented, of course, work hard, but another thing is be like a personable person, like in a sense. So kind of like speak to that as someone who's like ushered in people into, you know, cinematic or wherever, and just work with like young talent, like some advice on that part of things. You know what I mean?
I feel like that's my biggest thing. Like when I'm interviewing people or when I'm just meeting people, like I'm looking at like the character and the quality of person. Like I don't really care what you do. Like obviously I want to make sure that what you're trying to do aligns with what I'm doing and it makes sense for both of us. But I do want to just work with good people because I really strive to be a good person. Like I was such a little fucking like hall monitor as no, because that needs
That's not
to,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like when I was a kid, so like when I, went through that period where, you get hit over the head with like your childhood traumas and you're like, oh shit, like who do I want to be? That was one of my biggest things. It's like, yo, I kind of like, and people generally love me, but then there's the other half of people who don't understand me. And so my biggest thing was I was a little shithead. How can I like be true to who I am? Because I'm sorry, like I am running the show, so you need to fall in the fuck line. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can I be that, but also not make people like miserable while they're working?
Or like super intimidated or whatever.
Yeah, like I don't want that fucking energy. Like I'm super like chill and casual. Like, and I think that's why I was able to get like a really good set of interns, because like our energy is just like, word, like do your job. I really don't give a shit what you do outside of that, bro. Like, do your job, text me back, and whatever. If you want it, you're gonna do it. But I'm just here to help you. I'm just doing God's work by helping you. It's ultimate.
And it's like how far you want to go on this shit is really up to you, though.
That's up to you, right?
As long as you get what I need done.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But no, I think that's super big. And to also speak to, my singing career and my team, everyone in my team we're all friends first. Like, I don't think that, because they say, you can't work with your, your friends and your family, which I understand that part of it, because when you mix business and pleasure, the waters get a little murky, but like, I just don't see it working any other way for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it needs to be that genuine, authentic. Like, I need to be able to just like spaz out, or somebody needs to be able to have a bad day and there's no judgment, because we just know each other. And it's just like, yo, let Q do what she's doing.
Right.
Circle back. She doesn't mean it. And then it also gives me space to be vulnerable enough to apologize or to address it, and it just kind of clears that air a little bit better. So,
and not that like stuffy fake like office vibe where it's like someone's pissed off, or something is like the passive aggressiveness, like it just takes all that out, which is the most annoying part about working like anywhere, honestly.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so all of that led you to here now, and you're still working in music for sure. But it also, like, you're gonna use all that you learn, all your tools for your music now, right? So tell us more about like who you're going to be as an artist, where it comes from, and let's get more into that.
Okay, cool. So I guess we could kind of just start out with on some like marketing press release shit, right? Because I'm also a marketer, so I have to be a marketer and an artist at the same time. Like we kind of said before, like my content is very like message based. I definitely don't want to make music that is going to confuse anybody or stir them in what would be the wrong direction if they aren't already being guided. So it's going to be very Erykah Badu-esque in terms of the writing, and very I'm drawing a blank, but just like from who I came from, right? Like working with Tribe, and working with D'Angelo, like super spiritual and intent. Just with intent, because like we can also go to D'Angelo, which is like one of my biggest music influences. It's like he was talking about relationships and having sex, but it wasn't sex, it was making love, and it was that connection to another human being and the reverence to another person and seeing yourself in that other person. So just a lot of things that are just like, everything that I'm going to do is just going to be full of intent. There's going to be purpose. We're going to have a good time, and I'm going to party, and I'm going to do everything, the press runs and everything that I'm supposed to do, but there's going to be no question that everything that I'm doing is for a reason on the bigger scale. So, and then we can kind of get back into like my musical influences. Erykah Badu for sure, D'Angelo, Outkast, just kind of growing up in Atlanta when Outkast was becoming and became, like just how they just changed our just whole lives, everything, our minds about shit. The way that we took in music, how they were able to kind of reintroduce, you know, funk and, you know, the psychedelic type music to us, but make it hip hop, and then also show that respect to tribe, and just how
And
they
just
did
kind of
it.
even be weirdos. Not like
Yeah.
Black people get to be weird. We are not just one thing, and they really showed that they were funky, they were
Exactly.
weird, they were, you know,
Exactly.
quirky. I hate the word weird, whatever. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
Yeah.
but yup. So Outkast, Melanie Fiona, she's a
Oh,
huge
that's
one. I
good.
actually met her on some fangirl shit. I'm like sitting in a Walmart with her CD, like crying, like, oh my God. And she's like, whose little sister is this?
Yeah, that's so cute. And I feel like she's such a sweetheart. Like she's super
Such
sweet.
a sweetie. I actually saw a thread on Twitter the other day where someone was like, yo, drop your Melanie Fiona stories. And it was just like a thread of just like how sweet she
Sweet
is.
stuff. Yeah, no, I
Like,
bet. So
and
go ahead.
I want to say one more.
Okay, go ahead.
She's a big one for me, Ashanti,
Oh,
the
yes.
princess.
How do you feel about her? She's getting an award. She's getting a is it
She's
Beat
getting,
Soul or something like that?
yeah, like woman of the decade or
Yeah,
something
but people
like
were Twitter were going in about like, is it soul? Like they were, you know. What do you think?
that. Ashanti is soul. I don't know what the fuck they thought. Let's. How soon do people forget? Like, damn, we can love what's new and still appreciate what.
Yeah, no, we were all singing all of that, like "Rain on Me," like,
on, bro. Like, in the way that she just flipped fucking Isaac Hayes records, like that's a soulful sis, okay?
That's fact. That's fact. People
Yeah.
were going in on it. They were like, I guess, giving her more like she's more like bubblegum-ish, but I was like, I don't really think so. She might have something like that, but nah.
I mean, she was like one of she was like on some like Nivea type shit, like on some being like real like pop. She kind of that, because remember Shanti dropped before. I hope I do not get no shit for this, but Ashanti as a solo artist dropped before Beyonce as a solo artist. So Ashanti paved the way for that R&B pop sound. You know what I mean? Because like when you think of records like oh baby, super annoying and pop, right? But then you listen to her albums and that shit is funky and soulful.
That's what it is. People are definitely thinking more so about what they heard on the radio and not deep diving like, you know, how they love to do. So that's definitely what that's about.
Yep.
Okay, so obviously everything is definitely a lot of spirituality in it, a lot of soul, a lot of experiences and stuff like that. So I do want to ask you about your own personal mental health and spiritual journey. Like what, you know, however you want to attack that question and what you're comfortable with as well. And mind you, a lot of people that listen are going through things, or they're just like we all are going through shit. Like we all have our shit. So yeah.
Okay, so with that, I'll make reference to the song "Cry," my single that's dropping. You know, another little drop.
Right.
So basically, the song is about like the verses themselves is kind of like me, kind of going back and forth with understanding my connection to a higher purpose and a higher being, but also being like human and crying. You know what I'm saying? So I think that the best thing that anybody can do for their mental selves and their spiritual selves is to honor every state that you're in. Let yourself go through those states. But princesses and princes do not feel sorry for themselves. And we get our shit together and we stay focused. So I think it's like, it's just finding that balance of, okay, you know, my mom upset me today. It might take you the whole day. When me and my mom get into it, it definitely takes me the whole day to recover, because that's my vessel and that's important to me and it affects me, and that's okay. But tomorrow, sis, hit them emails again because you're doing something. So that's just the biggest thing, is finding that balance of being okay that you're being sad, being okay that sometimes you do have to be depressed, like on some real, because I know we kind of have to feel that, like sometimes you literally have to drop into a fucking black hole, stay there 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a year, and then when you decide and when your spirit has connected with being okay, get the fuck up. Get up. So that's the best that I can say. Obviously, there's different ways everybody practices that. There's yoga, there's reading, there's writing. I'm a huge advocate for getting a fucking journal. Like, write that shit
we
out.
always talk about journaling on here, so they know what's up. They know what's up.
Write that shit out.
Yeah, it's so like your journal, and you'll be able to see like how like all the old shit, and then it's just it's crazy, and just let it out. A lot of times, just things just like all pins up in our head. Let it out, write it, cry it out. Like you have to feel it. I think that a lot of our turmoil, the inner turmoil, comes from people trying to like hold it in whatever way, and it's just like you just have
to mask it. It's like, no, don't fake the funk. Like, you
and
sad. Be sad.
Of course, it's not easy. It's not easy to be sad, especially if you don't have a support system around you who would understand or whatever. So we've been conditioned to not feel sad. It's like, okay, if you cry, stop crying. And when you're young, you can laugh, you can smile, but as soon as you cry, it's like, oh my God, like this baby is crying. It's like this baby is feeling, and it's like, we need to go through those motions. So I think that's one thing that's very important. Like, just feel it. And what's crazy is when you feel it, whether it's those 3 days, 2 days, you literally feel like a whole new person.
Feel so much
2 days later.
Bro, when you get that cry, you ever have that cry where like your eyes are just so pressed together to the point where like it hurts?
Yes.
Like you've been bro, like do that. Do that for yourself, because then you're gonna like, when you done, you're just gonna look around and be like, girl,
or that cry when it's like you literally can't breathe and you like on the floor, and it's like and then you kind of be like, girl, okay. You just like lay down.
Look, when you feel it in your chest, like you really feel like your heart broke, like let it breathe.
Let it. Like those are all things that we literally have to feel. Literally. Okay, so going on more, so that's another, the spiritual part about it. And then also, I want to talk more about your roots, because obviously that's definitely where a lot of your spirituality comes from, and that's also plays into the song. So let people know, I'm sure they'll see, what's the name of your?
This is Deer Bone.
Okay, so for the people who are listening and not watching, we're talking about, it's still a necklace though, right?
It's a necklace, yes. It's a choker. Look, we're fashionable, we're trendy. It's a choker.
We're talking about her choker. And it's just, so go on and tell people about like, where you're from, and just like all the parts of you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So both of my parents, but mostly my mom, is Ramapo Lenape Native American. So that is a Native American tribe of like New Jersey, if anybody's familiar with Mahwah, New Jersey. So kind of extending from Mahwah, New Jersey to kind of going like upstate, not like Buffalo upstate, like it's really like maybe an hour and a half away. It's not that crazy. But kind of extending, upstate. So yes, that is my culture. That is my heritage. So speaking to the necklace, because I know that sounds real like mad voodoo, like why is she walking around with bones? But speaking to, one of the points of, showing that reverence to other life on this earth is when natives, hunt, they use all of what is given to them. You know what I'm saying? You don't just eat the meat, you use the hide for clothing, and then you use the bones for necklaces or jewelry, whatever, but you're making sure you're getting the fullest use of that animal, and that's
the resources.
That's how you show respect toward, taking that life. But in the grand scheme, you took a life to create. So that's kind of the background of that.
So you told me a story about how you guys, I'm not sure what exactly it was that was happening. Was the New Year?
Yes, so it was so the Native American New Year is actually the celebration of the spring equinox. We do not celebrate a new year when the earth is still dead. We celebrate it when the earth is blooming. So I actually had the honor of, because kind of getting back into, because me and Makeda had this conversation, because Makeda is also Native American, and we were having this conversation about there's this show on FX, it's called Reservation Dogs. It's about Native Americans, like some Native kids like on the res, but you kind of see that influence, like they're so influenced by like, hip hop, but they're still like Native, right? So there's this whole experience of Native Americans right now, because there's not many of us. We have so many different experiences of being Native American. And so with my upbringing, it was more so a point of like, you know, you're Native American, this is your family. Like, obviously you can look out into your family. Like, my family lives in the goddamn woods. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, which
Like,
is crazy because I feel like we were saying at dinner, like whenever we think of someone who's, you know, of who's black or of, you know, African American descent, and they're like,
mhm.
oh, you know, they're Native American. It's like that, you know, oh, like, girl, you got Cherokee, but it's like,
Right,
nah, like,
right.
and we're like, nah, dead ass, like,
Like, for
it's
real,
not, like,
look.
I'm for real, like,
Right. And we're not taking anything away from the Cherokee, because
not
the
at all.
misconception about Cherokee is that that was one of the biggest tribes in the South. So if you're in the South and you say Native, I mean, more than likely
You probably
you're going to
do.
be somewhere between, you know, Seminole, which is in Florida, Blackfoot, is it either Iroquois or Tuscaroran? Those are like North Carolina, South Carolina tribes. So you might be,
Yeah.
but there is that stereotype of just like, oh, if you think that you're Native, you are Cherokee. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
so many different like nations, and we all have different experiences, you know, being, more modernized. But to my experience, it's like, you know, I'm growing up, I'm spending time on, you know, the land, and I'm being told like, you know, you're Native American. I'm looking around at my family. You know, we're going to powwows, and, you know, which is a Native American family reunion, basically.
Okay. Yeah, no, I literally, like, talking to you, I'm learning, 'cause we don't know much about indigenous culture at all, and
Yeah.
it's actually
I mean,
sad. So
I'm
I'm
still
also
learning,
right.
but because you tried to erase us from history.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
So
yeah.
yeah, it's like I'm growing up and I have like these, you know, very specific instances. And, you know, I know that I'm Native American. My mother is telling me, do not stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. That does not serve us, very specifically to us in the Native culture. Black people too, Black Americans too. But for us, it's kind of like it's a different energy with that.
Mhm.
But then, you know, I moved up here to, you know, to take the job with Q-Tip, and now I'm, you know, closer to the res. And this year I was invited to come to I forgot like the actual name of it, but it is our new year, you know, celebrating the spring equinox. You have to be there like before sunset. So we were out there maybe like 4:30 in the morning. We got to like have a cousin, you know, walk us through the woods, because, you know, there's bear and there's deer, and
Right.
they're trained to wrestle and protect. So you have to have a guide into the woods. And we, you know, we walk up, and where like the story of our tribe specifically begins is at a stone. It's called Split Rock, and literally it's at the top of like a small mountain, and it's this huge boulder, and it's literally just split right in half. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just really on some like spirit type shit, you know,
Right.
some like lightning from the gods, and like this thing is still
Split
here,
it right in the right.
still right in the fucking middle. So I get up there, you know, I'm being told like, you know, this is where like, you know, we used to come as kids, and there's only 5 of us up there. There's me, another aunt who's an elder, and then there's 3 men who are elders. So for me, this was like really pivotal, because not only am I the youngest person there, but I'm also a woman. And not even for Native culture, because in Native culture, there isn't really, we're honored in our culture. So that's not really the biggest thing. But for me, coming from American culture, it's like, oh shit, like I'm a woman and I'm here, and
Right.
the youngest one here. And then we have our offerings. There's like tobacco and corn, I believe like sage, and we, you know, say a prayer. And that's really the first time I had heard our language is called Muncie. And that's the first time that I had heard someone speak it like directly in front of me. Like they were just like rattling,
Going at it, yeah.
going off. And I'm just like, yo, this is like some storybook shit. And this is real. So
Yeah.
for me, that was kind of like confirmation, like, yes, sis, like this is real. Not that I never felt like it wasn't real, but this is real, and you have work to do, and you have to kind of bear that responsibility of your culture as the next generation, and make sure that the rest of the world knows that you're here. And even on the smallest form is, you know, make sure your kids know what the fuck this is
And who
about.
they are, yeah.
Yeah.
And also just like carrying it on like a positive way, like, you know, like just having like that legacy aspect of it as well. Like, I think we talked about that a lot too, because of course, as you all know, I'm Kenyan as well, and like I'm in that same space of like embracing it more. I just came back from
Mhm.
being at home for like 2 months, and just so
Mhm.
much about it. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I'm like, this is it. Like I feel this in a different way. I've never felt anything before, and it's a responsibility to just make things better for for the past, for the future, for the present. So definitely kudos to you for doing that. Like that, like I honor you for doing that as well. You're someone I can talk to about that type of stuff, because
Yeah.
it's like definitely hard to understand in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So, and even just you, like your story, period. It's like you've already kind of like honored it by
Yeah.
doing what you want to do in this life,
Right.
pivoting when you need to, not
Right.
giving up. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you're doing what you need to do as a woman
Yeah.
in this space. So I'm super excited to see like how that unfolds. Like,
Yes, me
you know what I
too,
mean?
man.
Like
It was written.
it
Not
was
said
no,
this,
it
it was
really was. It
written.
really was written. It was another thing you talked about, which is another thing that I have in my culture as well. Like addictions and things like that,
Mhm.
specifically to alcohol. A lot of Kenyans are, it's a thing, like addicted to alcohol.
Yeah.
And you talked about that as well. So I don't even know what the question was I had for
Mhm.
that, or if I even have one.
Yeah,
But I just
yeah.
want to like talk about that more, and like what you're actively doing to make sure that you don't go into that path. I think about that a lot, and then just
Right.
like your family, that all that type of stuff, or just your
Mhm.
thoughts on it, period, or experiences.
Right. So my mom just kind of growing up, my mom growing up in the age that she did, like she really felt the weight of our family being consumed with alcoholism. Um I think that on a larger scale, everybody's okay,
Right.
but we if we can be frank and be honest about with ourselves about what it is, they do deal with alcoholism. So my mom dealing with that, dealing with like on some like had to go pick her uncle up on some like 16 years old, got to drive the car to go pick uncle up or whomever, right? So that was like
Mhm.
a big thing with me growing up, is that my mom just I never really saw my mom drink at all. Like,
Mhm.
the uncles and the rest of the family did, but specifically my mom wasn't a drinker. And then my dad, he was just on some just regular New York shit, and he would just drink
Right.
Heineken. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
never really
Right.
saw him drink for real.
Mhm.
So if anything, everybody's just a goddamn pothead.
Right.
Um, so I think just like the representation of, not being sheltered from the reality, but also not seeing my vessels abuse it, kind of transcended to me on some like, okay, well, that's not what we're doing over here.
Right.
And then obviously, kind of just getting older and, really seeing it for what it was. And I mean, I was a kid, I went to college, like I definitely have some nights and you're getting like, super fucked up.
Oh,
But
for
for
sure.
me,
Mhm.
it's just not thankfully it's just not for me. Like
Mhm.
being drunk, like I don't mind, grabbing a glass or whatever,
Mhm.
I'm 30 now, I'm grown, so I got my
Right.
wine,
Of course. Yeah.
which is fine. But for me, I never really fucked with the whole thing of like, getting super drunk. I understand why people do, and I'm
Mhm.
not, here to say addiction is a hell of a thing, and
Right.
alcohol is the only thing people could be addicted to.
Mhm.
So but yeah, it didn't make sense for me seeing what my culture went through with it, and then knowing myself and knowing that I don't really fuck with it.
Mhm.
So I think that just my goal is like it's about balance. Like I'm a
Mhm.
Libra at its freaking core. Like enjoy life, enjoy things, but find your balance, find what makes sense for you. You won't ever hear me, unless it's on some like it's a simile or a metaphor, you won't hear me, singing about drugs and alcohol, just because that's
Mhm.
not what I want to put out. And I also just want to make it a point to, as much as possible, not feel like I have to align myself with those types of brands. As you know what I'm saying? It is what
Right.
it is, right? And I have to be honest that I do enjoy a drink. So you're
For
going
sure.
to see it, but I want to, do everything that I possibly can do to make sure that it's not like a part of my brand. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, that's
Right.
kind
Right.
of how I
That
kind of
makes sense. That's kind of like, so my mom's dad passed away from alcoholism, and her brother, like her closest brother or whatever.
yeah.
So her thing was like, as soon as we got to a certain age or whatever, she kind of like, and of course we weren't like super sheltered or anything like that. So we had a good time, whatever. but she like sat like us down, each of us, and was like, okay, like this is in your family, just letting you know that, so you don't, because you never, I feel like addicts, you don't know that you're going there, you just end up there and you're like, oh shit, like I'm addicted or whatever. So she took it upon herself, which I'm so grateful for, to be like, hey, this is in your bloodline. It's the way that they've coped with things. It's the way that Kenya coped with things. So you don't know this because you're not there. When I was there, I was like, oh shit, like this is really a thing. So she's let me know, just to be like, have it in our conscious, because once it's there, it's like, oh shit, like let me chill out or whatever. So that's just always been a thing that I've always been, okay, look, we love to have a good time, we love to have a cocktail, whatever, but we know what we can and can't do.
Keep it
exactly cute. And everyone's different. Some people can do that and it works for them, some people can't. Like I'm the type to, the next day I will literally, if I go too hard, nothing's getting done, like like my mind is just like, no, there is no cognitive function. Like it's just like,
and then you just took a day from yourself for what? It's like, damn, I could have drunk one less drink
and been totally fine. Right, exactly. So speaking of that, I'm super duper into like wellness and things like that as well. And I know that y'all be juicing. You and Romel be juicing. So cute. I like just jamming out and being so cute. So why do you juice? Like what's your thing about it? I'm been doing smoothies, juicing. It's like the whole process. I have a juicer. Well, my roommate does, but the whole process seems like a lot.
It's tedious.
And I want to do it more, but definitely tell me like, like your benefits, why you do it and stuff like that.
So Q-Tip actually put me onto juicing. That was like one of my duties, is like, come in the house, walk my dog, make me a juice, right? And amongst a lot of other things, but obviously wealth and being around wealthy people, you're a little bit more cognizant of your health, because you kind of, to speak to life insurance, like the whole concept is you actually value your life. The longer you live, the more money you make. So that's kind of like the premise of, being wealthy is being healthy, right? So I used to juice a lot for him. He introduced me to all like the wheatgrass and all of that stuff. So I kind of just took that for myself. And I guess like literally when we were told to stay home, got, the stay at home mandate, I literally just copped a juicer. I was like, I'm not fucking around. I know that we're not going to be able to be outside. We can't get vitamin D as much as we did before. We're going to be in this house sharing, air with everybody. And let's just start our holistic journey here, and just so that we're good. So I literally started last year, March. And I think for me, with juicing and what I've grown to understand just about like overall health, is that just generally speaking, we as Americans, we have a poor understanding of the balance of nutrients that we need. So really it's just like that extra kick of like all the shit that I should be eating that I'm not, like, like a basic plate that, anyway, I grew up on, in the South, is meat.
For real, fried.
Bean, macaroni and cheese, and then like a little corner of like a fucking
some collard greens or something.
I don't know, right. And the collard greens is fucking submerged in
like turkey,
sugar,
bacon juice.
Right, bacon juice. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it's just about like just kicking your day off with getting those extra nutrients, because still I'm struggling. You know what I mean? Like I did try a vegan lifestyle for a bit.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
I found that wasn't exactly sustainable for me. Cause like, also just pointing back to, being Native American, like I believe that we can use what spirit has given. You just can't be gluttonous about it. And that's the problem, is that people are gluttonous and very disrespectful about it. And so I just didn't want my body, on some like, if fucking apocalypse was tomorrow and the only thing we had was like deer meat left, like I don't want my body to like be foreign to that. On some
you're out here throwing up when we trying to like get out of here.
Exactly.
And Romel gotta have to like come pick you up, because he's like, oh my god. Like,
right.
and I'm sure if you was vegan, he'd be vegan too. So y'all both probably gonna be like,
we just both just weak and useless. Like what the fuck? What y'all got going on?
Oh my god.
But yeah, and it did kind of just train me though to when I can, do choose veggies over everything else. But like, don't be down on myself if I want fried chicken. I made fried chicken like 2 weeks ago, like because I wanted it. But since then, like 2 days ago, I made shepherd's pie, vegan shepherd's pie. Like, that's the lifestyle, but
Right.
still not be down on myself if, I decide not
If
to.
you have a
So
little
just,
bit of something.
yeah. And then specifically to juicing too, like I think it's also like a form of meditation, like the process, right?
Mm,
Just really being intentful, being at the grocery store, understanding your palate and what you like and the things that go together that you enjoy, picking out, because now you got to smell the fruit, you got to feel it, you got to see the size that you want. So doing that and then coming home and saying, okay, this is what I feel like today. And, cutting the skin off of the pineapple and then, being intentful about repurposing the skin, boiling it down to like some type of pineapple tea. Like it's a whole process of, oh my God, I do love myself and I
right.
do love the earth. And, I'm going to drop this off at the compost bin, or I'm going to use the lemon peel to create the fragrance through the home and kind of clear out
Yeah.
my passages. Like, it's just this whole like thing where you're really just in this space of like loving yourself. And I think that that's
Yeah.
what I've learned most about it is like, yo, it really helped me love myself more.
Yeah. So it can be enjoyable once you really
Yeah.
like meditate in that experience.
You just
Like
gotta
all
get
the
into it. Yeah, it's a
exactly.
whole thing. Like
It's
you
kind of
wake
like
up.
cooking. Like when you cook, when you first
Exactly.
start cooking, it's annoying, but then you're like, oh, I actually really like this. Like it's like, and then you
Exactly.
put it into your body, it's good for you. It's like I
It's
did
good for
that.
you. It feels good. Now you're energized. You're like, oh shit, this is better than a McDonald's burger. Like, yeah,
Right,
it
right. What's
is.
I remember, I'm sure this is definitely fake news. People just be saying shit when they were saying that like when you juice, like you take all the nutrients out. Do you remember that talk?
Okay, so that is
What's that
true,
about?
right? So there's different types of juicers, right? So your, less expensive juicers are going to be I forgot how exactly they say it, but the motor runs quickly, which means it starts to heat up and you do, because like you get most of your nutrients from the skins of things, right?
Mm,
So when you're putting, let's say, an apple into the juicer, you're kind of losing the skin and you're juicing it out. But once you really get in your vibes, like for instance, like I have a Breville, which was what Q-Tip had. I have the cheapest version of Breville. And as we were, Romel and I were really like, researching everything, we learned that the cold press juicer is actually the best juicer because
mm,
it
okay,
literally,
okay.
it's like two plates that come and they just literally squish the shit out of the juice.
Together. Okay.
Right. So you're able to retain more juice. And then on the cold press machine, you have the other juicer apparatus where you take that press and you throw that into the spinning apparatus and you're really pulling out all those nutrients. So I wouldn't say juicing is not a replacement from eating fruits and vegetables. Let's
Okay,
start there.
that's what I
It's
think people
not
be
a
thinking.
replacement. It's not a replacement. It's like let me go ahead and start my day out with this. And then, okay, now when you're cooking breakfast, be more intentful about adding. It doesn't sound like it makes sense, but like you're cooking breakfast, like you need to add a vegetable. Like it can't just be bacon and eggs and
Bacon
pancake,
and
right? Like
yeah.
it needs to be potato or sweet potatoes are really good breakfast food. I was doing this one, it was like a not a diet, but like a little training program. They had me eating fucking broccoli at 10 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like
Dang.
like
But eating that,
food
and you need that in the morning, like it makes you feel better.
needed.
Like that bacon, egg,
You
and cheese,
need
that's
it.
why you sleepy at work because you had the
Yep.
bacon, egg, and cheese,
Exactly.
like and all that
Exactly.
dairy.
So let's just remember, juicing is not a replacement. You need to be eating fresh fruits and vegetables, organic if you can. Trader Joe's is
Mhm,
like the perfect place, or your local farmers market. Support local
mhm.
business and farming.
Yep.
But I love juicing. It definitely has completely changed my life, and we're gonna have the kids and the babies onto
Everybody,
it, and
yes. And another thing, you can be an unhealthy vegan. You
you
talked
can
about the
be.
yeah,
Yes,
so like
yes,
let's throw that out there. Like make sure
yes.
if you are a vegan, make sure you're not like the just only carb eating type vegan.
Right,
'Cause that's
right,
just not gonna work out.
right.
Okay, so we're gonna like transition. We're almost about to wrap up.
Okay.
So the man that you be juicing with is your man. So we're definitely gonna get into some like more light, fun dating type stuff.
Mhm.
So tell us, I guess I do want to. This was like I had no idea that Romel was young. I thought that he was probably older than you. Seriously, like
Yes,
just
because I'm a child. I'm
yeah,
immature.
yes. And I feel like women a lot of the times, especially like not even just like all women,
Mhm.
we have like our things, and it's like okay, that would have been like an instant no-go for some people. They'd have been like, oh nah, like, and they would have missed out on like whatever. Well, I don't believe in missing out on things, but you know what I mean? We kind of just, So tell us a little bit about that, and like we can start there, and then I have a couple more questions.
Okay, cool. So yes, I met Romel when he was 20. I was 26. So that would be 4 years ago. And that was a no for me in the beginning. I was just like, bro, like you're mad young. And then also too, the way that we just started hanging out, like he was like an intern photographer for me and my events. So it was kind of like, I'm like bossing him around and shit. And I'm just like, you don't really want to mix that. Like, I'm like, you don't want that, right? But he was like super persistent, and he courted me like on some real like traditional, like he friend zoned himself because he's playing the long on some Virgo psychopath shit, right? He's playing the fucking long game here.
Virgo.
So he really courted me for like a solid like 6-7 months, where he's like, you know, walking me, you know, to my doorstep, and like, you know, not being aggressive, and is like, you know, have a good day, and just being like super, you know, responsible with his manhood into my state as a woman. That's, you know, and I really respected that. And there was just something about him that the energy was just very mature. Like I was just like, okay, maybe it's not what I thought it was. And the things that he wanted to talk about, and the fact that he was open to hearing about, you know, my spiritual practices, which is, I hadn't really experienced that up until Romel. Like niggas did not want to talk about that. It's not what they want to talk about, you know, especially growing up in the South, and I was dating, you know, the football playing, you know, and no disrespect, I had a great time. I met some great guys, but that's just not what was going on. So I just really valued that. Like he just had a lot to him. And so I remember literally taking him out for his 21st birthday. And maybe a month later, we were in love. Like we weren't, it wasn't even like, can you be my boyfriend? Can you be my girlfriend? Like
that was gonna be my question, because I always wonder because sometimes some people have that moment of like, what made it be like, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what we're gonna do. Because you can have all those feelings, or you might know, you know, and you kind of ignore them or whatever, it depends on the situation. But like that moment of, oh nah, we doing this. Like
I didn't really know what I was doing, because I was also just kind of coming out of a very strenuous relationship like just before Romel. So I kind of was on some like, I kind of want to just be, you know, having a good time, but then I'm also like, I work in the industry and I don't want to be looking like I'm having a good time. So maybe it's cool. And I'm a Libra, like I love being in love. So that's nothing for me. But I think the moment for me was like, we were already hanging out literally every day. Like we worked together, and then we would go get food together, and then he would walk me home. Like he was like the first person and the last person I saw for like a very consistent amount of time. And then he's gonna hate me for this. After a party, he, you know, he went for it. He went for the kiss, right? And I was like, oh, not yet.
You were like, no.
I was like, time out, black on the black.
Oh my God.
But I expressed to him, I said, yo, like, I don't want to do that specifically, but I don't want you to like go anywhere. Like, I want this. I want this, but I want to make sure we're intentful and we're on the same page. And I want to make sure that we've established that friendship, because for me, the relationship that I was in before Romel was a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Volatile relationship. And I just made a promise to myself that I couldn't do that shit anymore. Like I was like, bro, no, like I
this not even you type shit. Yeah.
Exactly. So with him, I just wanted to be sure, and I wanted him to be sure. And then with the age difference, I was like, bro, my mind is in a different space right now. Like, I just don't want you. I don't want you to come on, and I don't want you to, because I'm an alpha woman. So I don't want you to feel like I'm making you inferior, because I want to be with the man who's the alpha man. So if you're up for that challenge and you can be the alpha man and I can be the alpha woman and we can make this thing work, let's fucking do it. But let's give us a little bit more time to figure that out. Right.
Yeah, that's good.
So with that, like that was just like a more challenge for him. Like he was like, ugh, challenge, let's really get to it. And we literally, so his birthday's in September, my birthday's in October. He got me Fenty. That was my first Fenty set.
Oh, cute.
So he got me Fenty. And remember, that was when Fenty was just a pop-up shop. So God knows how long he stood in line for that set.
Right.
I don't know. He still won't tell me to this day. It was out.
That was like I remember that. That was a long, like, it was hard to get. Like you couldn't really get it.
Hard. I had Fenty the first drop because of Romel.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So my birthday came around, he got me that. And then by Christmas, he said he loved me. And I was just like, don't go anywhere. I can't say it back, but don't go anywhere. And then we had a date. We had already planned out a date. It was like, you know, mani-pedi spa date and then dinner that night. And so that was the next day. And then when we were at dinner that night, I was like, I love you too. Let's just do it. And we just been inseparable ever since. So I will say, like, obviously, like when it comes to the age difference, like be aware of who you are and what you want, and don't lead anybody on, and be honest with them. But if that's what they want and y'all are on the same page, like it works, because in the ways that I'm super immature, like, and you've met, you know, such a granddad, like the granddad father energy, you know what I'm saying? So he holds me down in those ways. And then on the other end of that, like
he's also playful. Like y'all are really playful.
Super. We're chill. Like we literally play fight. Like fucking.
Which is amazing. I think that that's what you got to hold on to in life. Like you got to have that in you still.
Have to. Like we do dumb shit where like, all right, let's just say like Ro goes in the shower, right? Like I'll cut off all the fucking lights in the house outside, right? And then he comes out and he's just like, baby. And I'm like, so, and it's like, we would have never known that if we just would rushed into it. You know what I'm saying? It's
that's
like
a main lesson that I'm learning here. Cause I was always like a rusher type person, but I realized after healing, I realized I was rushing to gain this safety, intimacy and comfort that I could have only found not in those niggas, but in myself and in God. And literally, like that's literally where it has come from. So it's like I would think that it's them, but it's like, no, I'm just looking for this like thing to hold on to, whatever. So I would rush the process, but it's really about getting, because like it's like, and even if someone's younger or if they're not your type of whatever, if you just be their friend and get to know them, that will like play out after.
That's the comfort, right? Like it's all about
that's what you're looking for. Somebody to
like,
love
you're just looking for somebody to talk to,
and someone to love you past like your messy shit. Like shit like that. So it's like you're not gonna get that if you rush through it, which it took me until maybe like this year or last year to really like understand that or whatever. Shout out to all the Virgo men. I just want to
shout out to the Virgo men. They get a really bad rap. And I will say, okay, he's gonna kill me for this too. Romel is like the 4th Virgo man in a row that I've dated. And because my Virgo my Venus is in Virgo. So it's how I love too. So I get it. Like I get the whole like being detached, but also being like really obsessive. Like that works for me. Like I'm into it, you know. But I will say that there are undeveloped Virgos that when you notice that that's what's going on, you need to run. It is not a game. It's not a game. Do not fucking play around with that energy, because
I only had, well, I'm not even gonna go there because I don't want people putting two and two together.
Right.
But that's wild though.
But yes, a developed Virgo man. He is a king, and I love Romel, and I'm gonna give him
shout out to Romel.
a bunch of babies, and we're just gonna be like these fucking linen wearing, moccasin wearing ass family, right?
What would you say about, this is one thing, like being like y'all are, and Romel, by the way, y'all is talented as hell, a photographer.
Talented.
So good. He's so good. What would you say about being in a relationship young, both of y'all are young, and chasing your dreams? Because you know how, especially a lot of men and just women like us, it's like, let me put that on the back burner, or like you kind of like don't want nobody holding you back, especially in the industry. Like how have y'all been able to navigate that? Because I think that partnership can help elevate you if it's the right one. But
yes.
you know?
So I will say that a part of it was a part of our friendship too, is because, okay, so if anybody doesn't know, Ramel is an excellent, skilled photographer and creative director. Currently at Cinematic, he's a photo and video commissioner as well. So he's just a creative ass person. And for the most part, if anybody is kind of tapped into all the photo shoots that I've done, Ramel is my photographer. Like that's literally how we met. I kind of was on some like, let me finesse this young kid off this photo shoot, right? And in his mind, he was like, let me finesse this honey off this photo shoot.
Right.
So we were just always on the same page. And so we kind of went into it knowing that we were both just like super like goal oriented. But I think it's just really important it starts with yourself. Like, do you know what the fuck you want, right? Because like for me, I know exactly what I want. It may look a little bit differently or it may come at different times, but like I know exactly what I want and I'm very expressive about that. So when I'm telling him this is what I want and this is what I need in a partner, it just worked out that that's the same. Like we're both just like hyper creative people. So there are these times where I have to go away for a couple hours just to be by myself. And he understands that because he has to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not something where obviously we miss each other. Like he'll peek his head in like, I miss you.
But it's not like y'all take offense, like, oh, are they mad at me or whatever? Yeah.
No. And even with our living situation, like currently, which is new, we just started living together, but you know, right now it's a 1-bedroom, but we know that when we formally live together, it needs to be like a 3-bedroom. Like you need your space, I need mine, and then we need our space where we coexist. Like being creatives, and I think just being people, we need to kind of really own our individuality and take that time and find partners that understand that within themselves to the point where they will honor that in you. And Ramel and I, we just honor every inch of who we are. Like it's not to say that we're perfect. We're not fucking perfect.
Of course,
But we honor each other and we respect the spaces that we reside, however long those spaces may take to pass or come. Like we just honor all of those stages of just being because we are so aware of who we are. And it really just starts there.
It really just starts with yourself.
Yep.
That's good. That's a good way to end everything. Is there anything else? We know your song is dropping at midnight. So Thursday, and this is coming out on Thursday as well. Super excited. Dang, that's crazy.
Yes, stream. Put your friends.
I'll have the link in like the description and everything like that.
Yes, put your friends on. Take time, like sit with it. It's kind of on some like not as prolific, I guess, but like, you know, when To Pimp a Butterfly came out, you can't just listen to it. Like you gotta sit with it.
Literally. Like, yes, exactly.
Exactly. So I would say just sit with it. I just want everybody to honor themselves and love themselves and continue extending that to other people. Let's continue holding each other up, especially us being Black and brown. If we don't do it, nobody else will. So definitely just make sure you're holding your people down. Call your strong friend, call your mom. She be tripping, I know. Mom be tripping. But call your mom, love on your people, and love on yourself.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So we always end also with what's been bringing us peace of mind for the week, or even just anything that's not the cliche. Like in a sense, it could be literally anything. People have said smoking, whatever, like, you know, so like what brings you peace of mind or what has been as of lately? It could be
Romel. I hate to be corny, but Romel.
Oh,
like,
no, that's not corny.
You know, like it's really on some like home is where the heart is type shit. Like he's my peace, he's my everything. So like when I'm fucked up, I just go sit with him. I don't even gotta always vent. I just go sit with him. So just find something you could sit with and just, you know, without like, you know, being on some like energy stealing shit, like just sit with something, you know, whether it's like, you know, people who hug trees, that's the same premise, you know, they're just sitting with what is and sitting with what's alive. So yes, Romel, my king.
Yes, I love that. I love you so much.
I love you too. Thank you so much for having me.
One more thing, I love the fact that you literally are doing this, because I always tell my friends, like, do what you want to do. I think we had this conversation.
Do it.
This is another like lesson I want them to learn. It's like, I'm sure to like, you could have all these thoughts like, okay, they're going to think that I only worked in music to like be an artist, or they're going to think this, think that. What if they say that I'm trash? Whatever the case may be, but it's like, fuck all that shit. We have one life.
Just do it.
We have one life. Pivot, do it. One thing that I definitely want to get more into, which I'm gonna like ask you for more advice. Like, I definitely want to like start modeling for real, and like making a portfolio, putting things out there. Like,
as you should. Yes, ma'am.
Like, outside of just like, you know, influencing, I want to actually do like shit for real. So I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm about to do it. Like, yeah. And even sitting with you, maybe like, oh no, you really can like just do whatever you have on your heart. So I want y'all all to take that away too.
Just take that. And I will say, okay, one more point to that. I don't know if everybody knows, but Denzel Washington is an amazing speaker, right? And he always has this thing, like whenever he speaks to like, you know, graduating, you know, schools and stuff, he says this thing where it's like, if it is in you, or if it's in your spirit to do it, or if it's an idea that you have, that's God's confirmation to you that it's already yours. You're not gonna want to, for me, like I don't want to be a fucking astronaut, right? But I do want to be a singer. I do want to be a writer. I want to do these things. So that's God's confirmation that I can already do it. So whatever ideas that any of us have, or whatever we want to do, like just kind of take a step back and look at your network and look at where you need to be, because God has already placed that in your life.
Yes, he put it in there. He put that thought, that seed, like for a reason. So now, and that's what life is about, like taking those seeds and making it go. So, oh my gosh, okay, love you. This was great.
Yes, I love you so much.